looks like we are live. I will double check. Wait to hear from you guys that audio is working before. Actually, I guess I can. Yeah, it looks like it's working on my end. Hopefully we don't have a repeat of, when was that? A couple weeks ago? It was quite inconvenient. Let's see. I apologize for the email this morning. So I use, those of you who are on my email newsletter, it is free. You can sign up. It's great. It's not free for me to use. So I use Aweber. It's fairly expensive for this screw up. For some reason, when I wrote the, when I wrote the email out last night, and it takes a while to write those up. I have a template that I use, as you guys saw, because it's like 3 years old. And I just I first go through, change the image, then I go through and change all the content, and then, update the links and all of that. And occasionally I screw that up. Occasionally I forget to change something. But I went through and wrote all that stuff out, and then I changed the title last. All Aweber saved was the title and the images. Everything else was from 3 years ago. So it looked like I was telling you guys I just had surgery and stuff from 3 years ago. Yeah, that was lovely. Thanks, Aweber. I have no idea why that happened. So we resent that with the updated links. But yeah, that was again, thanks, Aweber. I was surprised at that one. It was kind of a weird screw up that I don't even know how that happened. Okay, Joseph said audio is live. Everything's good. Okay. So yeah, that was, again, sorry for that email this morning. Oh, I have windows open that don't need to be open. Let me close that or we're going to hear notifications for Facebook. So there we go. Tonight we started the first part of this last week, the background and the branch. Tonight we're going to start on his face. I don't know how far we'll get. We'll see. Now, one thing I am going to change on this guy, the reference photo, by the way, can be found at patreon.com/Lachri. You don't need to be a member to get this. The photo comes originally from Pixabay. I'm going to make a few adjustments on his beak when I zoomed in. By the way, if you've not seen it over on Patreon, or no, not Patreon, Instagram. I think I posted it to Facebook too. Yeah, I did. The upgraded studio with the monitor up here. It is so nice because before my monitor was like behind I was always having to look around the cameras. Now it's up high and I can see it and it's wonderful. I'm so excited. Who would have known an inexpensive wall mount would be this handy? Anyway, the bird, if you zoom in on this photo, it looks like he's recently eaten. He's got some pink gunk all over, we'll just call it gunk, all over around his beak. I'm not going to include that in mine, so that will be something that's different. And it's just because when I zoomed in, when it was small, I didn't even realize that's why his beak was colored that way. I was just thinking maybe it was colored. Yeah, it's not. We're going to cut that out. Alana said, I never got the must-have email, but I'm signed up for Patreon. Is there something else I should sign up to get all your emails? Yes. It should be linked in the video description. If you go there, or if not, you can go to my website, lachri.com. It'll have my email newsletter. It is completely free. I send out normally only one email a week. Sometimes two if I remind everyone about the Friday email or Friday live stream. I haven't lately, but normally it's once a week. It has like art motivation or art tip along with whatever videos went up that week and the live stream's coming. So it just keeps you up to date with everything. Normally it's not a problem. Today was a little weird and confused a lot of people. I woke up to so many emails of people that thought that I wasn't, because I think in the email I said I wasn't having a live stream or the live streams were scheduled for January. Yeah, that caused some confusion. So that's something fun to wake up to before you've had coffee. Anyway, so this guy, Acrylics, we've got him drawn out. We did all of that last week. So I'm going to start with just his little eyes. I'm going to be using some liner brushes here. I've got two. This one is a Master's Touch. This is the generic Hobby Lobby, my absolute favorite liner brush. It is their when it's listed for oils in acrylics, it's a synthetic hog hair. This one's a number 2 script liner. I've also got this little Simply Simmons one. This is a it says 2/0. I don't know how they use their numbers, but this one is going to be a golden Teflon, so it's going to be a little bit not as stiff as the Master's Touch ones, but those will be the two that I use to get this in there tonight. I've also got a little brush. This one's just a Simply Simmons one. It's small, and I'll use that for any shading or smudging I might need to do. So the first thing I need to do with his eyes, we want those to be yellow, but our background is very dark. If I were to paint just straight yellow paint on top of that, you're not going to see that yellow. It's just going to tint the color because it's so translucent. So what I'll do is paint those white first. So we will do that and then let it dry. I can use, oh, this paint is starting to dry. Ooh, yes, hold on. Before we start, I'm gonna put some new paint out. I didn't realize how dry that was. I forgot to leave a paper towel from last week in my palette. So let's get some new white paint. It's still technically wet, but it's getting thick enough it would have been a headache to work with. So we'll start with that. I know I'm gonna want some more yellow. Oh, that's cloth. You don't need to use the same colors of paint that I do at all. You know, if you've got yellow, use yellow. It does not need to be the same. This one is cadmium yellow medium hue. It doesn't matter that much. Like always, what matters are our values. Dark's dark enough, light's light enough. That's what's going to make your work look realistic. Knowing the right color to use has very, very little to do with making your work look realistic. So, little tip there. Hi, George. Violet Sky said, hi, Lisa. Are your parents still coming to visit this month? If so, it would be a blast to meet them in a live stream. My parents would probably not, they'll let me record them, but I don't think we'd do a live stream. But no, that fell through. So they had a girl who was supposed to be watching the house or staying at their house. It's a college student that they knew. And she agreed. They had everything scheduled. And then last minute flaked and said, oh, well, I had a family trip planned. No, you didn't. You planned it after the fact and then flaked. I hate when people flake. Like, you had a commitment and you flaked and it's going to throw off there. So we have no idea when they're going to be able to come. I don't know if it'll be October. We have no clue, unfortunately. Very disappointing. Oops, that's going to be a thick chunk of paint. When you're using the liner brush, twist that with a little bit of water and the paint. You do not want a thick chunk on this. It won't work right. Wrong mouse. Nadine said, how about a Patreon swan in acrylics? I'll be signing up for Patreon soon. I'm excited. There's already a Patreon swan in acrylics. You guys have one of those already. I don't have it's kind of a smaller one, but yeah, there is one already up there. Okay, so let's go ahead and paint that white. Need a little bit more water. This is not flowing really smooth, so I don't have enough water or paint on there, so we need to balance that out. Kimberly said, I'm so excited to be here. I love watching you paint. Thank you. This is not bright enough. Hold on. There we go. Oh, I can see now. Let's make sure that didn't just screw up the glare for you guys, though. Yeah, it kind of did. Well, you can see well enough. Let me see if I may be able to adjust that so it's not quite so bright for you guys. Hold on one second. I was having a little bit of trouble there seeing. There we go. That should work. Close enough anyway. Okay. Oh, I should probably reload this. Being that I stopped to fix the image, or whatever, I fixed the thing. So I want to be really careful around there. If I get to where it's not where it's supposed to be, it's not the end of the world. I can fix it. But it would be easier if I didn't have to. We're just going to go right around that edge. Okay, we need that to dry. While it dries, I may as well go ahead and block in the beak too. I'll use a bit of unbleached titanium white for this one. Susan said, Lisa loves a grisaille lesson on Patreon. Thank you. George said, do you have any ideas for fantasy drawing? I want to do, this is random. So the thing with fantasy, if someone else gives you the idea, isn't it my idea and not yours? I mean, fantasy needs to come from your head. Use what is in your head. Now, I can give you this tip. If you can't come up with something, you're like, I want to do something kind of surreal, something random. One of the things that I recommend is put a bunch of 3 elements together. Just throw a bunch of stuff together and make yourself combine it. So like you can put a little jar or whatever and write out ideas. Spoon, fork, plant, rose. I'm looking around my room. What else can we throw in there? Paintbrush, dog. Throw in different elements in there and then pull 3 elements of that, 3 things that you've written in there, little papers, pull them out and make yourself make something from those 3 random things. That's a way that you can do somewhat, he's gonna have feathers in front of his beak, so that just kind of ends. But that's a way that you can do somewhat surreal stuff or come up with ideas if you are just stuck. So that would be one tip. But as far as like me giving you an idea for something that's fantasy, not really. I say mermaid, I guess. Let's see. Casey said, I was so excited to paint today, had my palette out and was getting ready to get the paint when I realized it was 11 a.m. and Wednesday, not Friday, and I had to wait. Oh no. Susan said, I would like to see a Brazil lesson in acrylic. Yeah, I can do it in acrylic. I know someone requested in colored pencil. I don't work in colored pencil that way. So what I would recommend if you're looking for that style in colored pencil, the link that reference photo is from, they have these kits that are for that in colored pencil from thecoloredpencilmag.com. That link will take you and they'll walk you through that. It's not really something, it's not a way that I work in colored pencil, but it can be done. So that I think would be a good option for those who are looking for a colored pencil version of that. Yay, coffee. Okay, I doubt those are dry all the way. While they dry, I'm just gonna grab another brush. We'll grab a small round, and I'm gonna start blocking in some of the lighter areas where the feathers are going to go. Just map those out. Because, I mean, we can take the hairdryer and dry it, but why not just let it dry on its own and just block some stuff in. So this is just a small round brush. It is a Taklon bristled again. We'll just see how I'm kind of clustering these so it sort of looks like it's going in the right direction of the feathers. We'll repaint those, but this is a nice way to map that out. Make it a little easier on ourselves later. Yeah, and I'll warn you now, I say grisaille, and it's supposed to be like grisaille, and I know that. My brain says it's kind of like quidonkadunk all over again. I pronounce it more how it looks like it's written. So I apologize. Don't assume I know how to pronounce anything. Like if you're like, how do you say this word? This is how Lisa says it, so it must be right. No, if I said it that way, it's probably wrong. I mispronounce everything. Let's see. Just a reminder, if you have a comment or question for me, make sure to do the @Lachri Fine Art. If it doesn't highlight my name in orange, I just don't see the question. I'm not trying to ignore you, but I will ignore you, not on purpose. So we've got those little, about where those feathers are gonna go. He's got a few in here. I may as well just block some of those in too. And we'll have to correct a lot. Now, what's gonna happen, some of the green and blue colors from the background will end up showing through in the deepest shadows. Great. That just simplified things for me. Whenever you change the background, so if you look at the reference photo, that had a light yellowy green background. Mine has the teal colors because it's for me and I like those colors better. So I need to make sure that I'm including those background colors into my subject so it feels like he goes together and he's not just a sticker cut out from one image or one scene and put onto another scene. So if some of the background color shows through, like in the deepest shadows, great. That makes my life easier. If I cover them up, no problem. I just have to come back through with some of those colors later on. Heather said, my more rambunctious studio assistant wants to help you paint by the mouse is in the way. By wetting my brushes? By patting my brush. That's awesome. Mine are passed out. For athletes, greyhounds sure sleep a lot. Or recharge a lot, I guess. I'm liking this little round brush for some of these feathers. And if they're too white, it's no big deal. I can glaze over that later. He's got a little eyelid up here. I have to put a shadow under it, but we can put that in. Same thing on the other side. Speaking of the mouse being in the way. Whoops, too big, whatever. I'll have to fix that later. And then just start getting some of these little feathers in there. Make sure that they're clumping and clustering together. You don't just want random speckles, random polka dots all over the place. George said, do you watercolor? If you do you have any tips? I just use watercolor pencils. I don't even own any normal watercolors. unless I had some from Smart Art Box, possible. I still need to do some videos with those. But I'm not an expert with watercolor. Check out Lena Dania. She does watercolor and she's amazing at it. I'm watercolor pencil, which is a little bit different. So I'm not too much help there. I guess for the watercolor pencil, I would say start light and build up to your darks is easier. So because you want to leave a lot of the white paper exposed where you want your lights, but that's about it I've got for tips there. Paul said, phthalo green mixed with Mars black and white is as good as magenta for shadows. I wouldn't be mixing white in anything for shadows. Well, not always. I would do a glaze when I shadow typically. If you have any, so what you're talking about is mixing, let me make sure I read that right. You said, hold on, I scrolled too far. Mars black and white, anytime you mix those two colors, you just got gray. And it dulls the color. I don't use, unless I need something to be gray, I'm not mixing those two colors. The phthalo green, yeah, I mean, shadows can be, depending on what your subject is, shadows can be all kinds of different colors. So that's true, but I probably wouldn't be using gray or, mixing black and white together on a shadow. There are exceptions, but it's not going to be my go-to. Melinda said, I love how everything is no big deal. There is always a way to make it work. Absolutely. Heather said, I tagged you on Instagram with a picture of him just watching you paint. Oh, I'll have to go look at that. Oh, thank you for the super chat, Lonnie. That's so sweet. Sarah said, are you planning to glaze the main color of the bird over the feather details? I am. Well, sort of. I'm going to paint the grayish brown tones. I will paint those in, but I'll probably do some glazing for shadows as well. But yeah, what happens talking about using titanium white and Mars black in a shadow, titanium white's too opaque. I will almost never want something opaque when I do the shadows. I usually want whatever is under to show through. I start throwing in opaque colors and I just lost that whatever detail you might have had. So let's say it's like a wood grain table. You mix white and black together, it's too opaque and gray and you lost your wood grain. So that's why they just aren't my go-to there. Paul said, is Taklon a brand or a brushing? It's a type of bristle, so it's not a brand. It's just the type of bristle, like the type of bristle. I don't know. I'm trying to throw more words in there. Okay, get a few more of those. Still waiting for those little eyes to dry. Now you could use a rake brush, but in this case, it's so small here, I find it to be easier just to go ahead and use the small round. Now right now too, the other thing, the way that I'm doing this, if you look at the reference photo, it gets very soft and somewhat out of focus as you move on towards the backside here. That will get toned down when we glaze over it later, so it won't be that harsh. And even if it is a little harsh, it's not a big deal here. Lottie said, how would you draw highlights on blonde hair in colored pencil? White pencil to lighten it, or would that make the hair look old? No, yeah, with blonde, usually I go with white. White, I mean, it depends. That's my answer for everything, isn't it? It depends, because there are times I might use pinks, depending on the lighting, or golden tones, not yellow. And the only time yellow really gets used in here is if the sun is hitting just right, and that's more the sun showing through than the hair itself. That sometimes happens, rare. Usually I avoid yellow, but yeah, white, when you get into really light hair, white is going to be a color you use a lot for highlights. Whereas like if you had black hair and you use the white, as you know, you would get you would age the person. It would look like gray hair or dirty hair. So in that case, blues would work and purples. But with blonde hair, when you're working in lighter colors, yeah, white's probably going to be your go-to, or add white to the color you're currently using. George said, what does your dog look like? I have 2 greyhounds who are posted. No, they're not on Instagram that often. Now that I think about it. I mostly post them on Facebook. A cow print greyhound, white and black, and a solid black greyhound. Paul said, I'm glad I'm on time. I love that you love that work in progress oil painting behind you. Thank you. Yeah, it's drying. Just about ready. Well, it technically now could go on to the next layers. So tomorrow I will start adding color. I'm really excited because there's some stuff I'm not thrilled about at this layer, but I know when I start adding color, it's going to get way better. Snorting greyhound in the background. Wake up. You're dreaming. Gibson. Hold on. Gibson. There you go. Yeah, you're dreaming and making funny sounds. Waking him up is a challenge. Yeah, Joseph said my dogs look like upside down horses. Yes, yes they do. They are usually laying on their back with their legs in the air. Right now they're both right side up. It won't last long. Yeah, I need to do some more. Well, I've got to do an edited video tomorrow. Maybe I'll see if I can get some footage of the boys. Now, I don't care if these little speckles are exact. It is not necessarily going to make your work look more realistic. What I do care about, are they going the right direction and about the right size? As far as like, I'm not counting 15 speckles going one direction. None of that really is important. I just want to make sure they switch direction as needed. And again, about the right size. And like those brush strokes I just did, too white, too thick, not a big deal. We'll cover that later. When it comes to painting, the not a big deal thing is, that's a big deal. Nothing's that big of a deal. You can change and fix and layer. So don't, I've seen so many students when they start out, they're so worried about making a mistake that they won't experiment, they won't jump in, they won't paint, they don't use enough paint. They're just too worried about messing up. There's nothing you can do to your painting besides putting a hole through it that you really can't fix. So don't get yourself so worked up that you're not moving forward. Go and make mistakes. Those mistakes are an important part of learning. And then learn how to fix those mistakes. Also an important part of learning. Oops, there we go. Hold on one second. Let's see. Monica said, the few times I've color picked from a picture of myself, I'm surprised to find my blonde hair has got green in it. Yeah, it will. Angel said, glad that Chris Dunlop has been consistent on YouTube too. Me too. His stuff's really good. He did a vlog recently that I really liked. Like, it was fun to watch. Fun enough, I made my husband watch it too. It was really cool. So it gave me some ideas. I want to do some stuff like that. Let's see. CJ said, first live real time. Been following you for so many years and learned so much with my colored pencil work. Thank you so much. Love your artwork and your animals. Thanks. Sarah said, I'm kind of letting my hand bounce when I'm painting these feathers. It's giving me really good results. Nice. Casey said, I'm really struggling. I've already had my calorie quota, and my family just asked me if I wanted Italian food. I want pasta. I am so there with you today. I don't know why I've been extra hungry today. We didn't walk yesterday, because it was pouring down rain, so I couldn't have as many like I normally would have an afternoon or before bedtime snack, and I couldn't because I didn't have enough calories. And now today I went on a walk this morning. I'm pretty sure, because I don't think it's going to be raining, I'm going to go on another one just so I can earn enough calories for a snack. I so know what you mean. I'm loving the calorie quota thing though, because it's something that I'm finding it's like having a bank account. Like, this is how many dollars I have to spend, but with calories. And if I want to earn more, I have to work a little harder. So Gibson loves if I want to do an extra walk. We're making up for the fact that we've got so many storms too. I don't know if we'll be able to. I think we should be able to walk tomorrow, but we've had so many. He was not happy about missing yesterday's walk, but it was pouring. So yeah, that I didn't get as many snacks and it was rough. And I had just refilled my frozen food. So there's this bowl, for those of you who are not interested, I apologize, but which is everybody but one. There's this bowl. It's like a healthy choice meal power bowl or something like that, and it's one of the keto ones. So instead of rice, it's got the cauliflower, and it's a chicken marinara one. It is so good, and I had just bought more because I was out last night, but I didn't have enough points to eat them or calories left to eat them, and it sucked because super tasty. So I've had 2 so far today. Angel said, do you wake up at midnight craving for pizza or burger? Neither. Those aren't, no, I guess sometimes pizza. If I'm going to crave food, it would probably be pizza, but I don't really get either of those much anymore at all. Like, it's been a very long time. But if I were to crave one, pizza would be my thing to crave. Let's see. Gail said, has anyone asked about the painting on the easel to your left yet? I've had a couple people comment on it, but mostly it's people who know from, because that was this week's Patreon lesson. So yeah, that one is over at Patreon right now. The underpainting, and will be next week's lesson, if all goes well, will be the colored portion of that. So super excited. Colored Pencil Magazine, Sally, the editor of Colored Pencil Magazine, she took the photo, and the photo itself, it's so much better than this because in color, oh, it's beautiful. The glow on her hair. Her hair is really like, to me, the thing that stood out so much, and I was like, I want to paint that because the way her hair is in the photo. So yeah, it's an amazing photo. Casey said, if calories are my bank account, then I've definitely overdrawn the amount multiple times, and the check has definitely bounced. That's funny. Monica said, hi. Ma says hi too. Was wondering what are good blends for skin tones with colored pencil. My tones are coming out too orange or way too dark. It depends. And I know this is not the answer you're looking for, but when it comes to skin tones, it depends. And you can even take the same person, you slightly change the lighting, and I'm going to use a whole different set of pencils. Caput Mortem is always a go-to of mine. I think light cinnamon is one I use a lot. White I will use to lighten things, or a light tan. It depends on the person's skin tone. But those are almost always used in everything I do. So, but without seeing, it's really hard because it's going to change from painting to, or person to person, and the lighting that each person is under. I mean, you slightly move me over to the left and I'm going to have more blue tones than yellow tones. Like it'll completely change depending on the lighting. So what you can do that I find to be helpful is use an eyedropper tool. If you do a YouTube search, I show you how to use an eyedropper tool with like Photoshop or phone apps where you can see what color something is, and that will help you to choose, a colored pencil that looks like that, I think. Let's see. Angel said, thank you, by the way. Lena Dania is moving to Washington. Wow, she's moving far. I know she was talking about moving. I haven't talked to her lately. I didn't know if that was happening or not. I know she's been down in Florida. That's a big change in weather. I tried talking her into moving to Texas. Maybe eventually. I try talking everyone into moving to Texas. I like it here. Much more so than California. Let's see. Hey Lisa, are you going to be playing Shadowlands on the release date? I don't know when the release date is, so I don't know. It depends on how busy I am. The first couple of expansions, I was always there day one with everybody else, and you had the queue time to even get into the game, and then everyone's trying to kill the same mobs, and it was just a nightmare. The last few expansions though, I waited a week or two, or if I played doing old content stuff that I still was working on, because I just don't think that's super fun to fight with everybody else trying to get the same mobs, and too many people are in the zone, and I just didn't enjoy it. So yeah, every expansion, for the last several expansions, I've been like a week later. For those of you who don't know, it's the next expansion for World of Warcraft. I don't think I've even pre-ordered mine yet. I usually do because they'll give you the mounts and all that. Angel said, why are people so putting a bad name on tracing? I feel guilty every time I trace because people are dumb. Because people do not understand what tracing can and cannot do for you. Because people like to set up rules for themselves and then insist everyone else follows the same rule. They do it with everything in life, controlling the way you speak, controlling every single thing. So it shouldn't surprise you that people are doing it with tracing as well. They do it with everything. They try to control everything everyone else does because of rules they've set up for themselves. I don't care if they set up rules for themselves, but don't try to control how I work or what I do or what I say or what, that's where I start getting don't tell me, if you tell me what to do, I'm probably going to do the opposite. And definitely true with tracing. That's just something that happens. People are, and normally, I wouldn't even talk about it, but I think that it helps you guys to hear somebody else say, hey, it's no big deal. Too many people they just want to control everything everyone else does. And it's not just tracing. I've heard people in pencil groups getting on other artists saying that they shouldn't use an eraser. What? Or they shouldn't use blending tools, or they shouldn't use this tool or that tool. People like to set rules for themselves for some stupid, I don't care why you set a rule for yourself. You want to limit yourself, go for it. But for what my issue is when they decide everyone else needs to follow the same rule. That makes no sense. I don't get it. So yeah, no, that's not something to feel guilty of. It's something to pity the idiot who wants to force their rules onto everybody else. I mean, I'm with them on if it's an issue of safety or archival or, that right there with you. Anything else, it's art. There are no rules. And the fact that if anyone thinks there's a rule to art, they don't know what no swearing, Lisa, what they're talking about. I just won't listen to them. It's like, and you're an idiot, and you're an idiot, and you're an idiot over there. So they're not people you want to listen to if they're trying to impose their little personal limitations onto you. And it won't end. Tracing is one day the thing. Using black paint is a big no-no. Using an eraser with a pencil is a no. Using tools it's a tool. Use that tool. That's all tracing is a tool. It has nothing to do with your composition. It has nothing to do, well, unless you're full on tracing somebody else's composition, but it's not an instant win button. And that's what a lot of people misunderstand. They think that tracing means the work is automatically good. No, because I used to draw out work for my students, newer students. They didn't want to draw it on their own. I'm like, I'll draw it for you. No big deal. So I'd sit there, sketch it out for them. There was no guarantee the work was going to be any good. Usually it wasn't, unless I was really holding the hand for somebody new. No, you still have to be able to draw well for tracing to work well. And too many people just do not understand that. And again, they want to impose their little arty rules or whatever rules, they do it with everything, on everybody else. And then if you disagree with them, they pretend they're a terrible victim and everybody's so mean to them. I can't stand people who are like that, who have an opinion. I mean, everyone can have their opinion, but when you start demanding everybody else do the work the way you work, we're not talking anymore. That's kind of my thing. I have no use for you in my art life. Let's see. October 27th, probably not for Warcraft, because if Aquashella happens, I'll be getting ready for Aquashella right around that time. I doubt I'll have time to play. Let's see. Jason said, no, not Texas. Too close to my sister. I need a few states away. Oh my gosh. Angel said, yes, it's almost like they're policing in art. Exactly. And it's stupid stuff. Again, you want to talk about something being archival? I'm with you on that, because there is almost a victim in that if somebody is buying the work and it fades, that's an issue. I can see, bringing that up to people, but anything else, or, safety, don't drink the paint thinner. Even that you can live through, but it's not ideal. I'm with you on that. But yeah, some of the stuff they do, it's just no. Jason said, there is the graph method that could be wrong, so it doesn't matter. Oh, and no matter what it is you're doing, no matter what technique, no matter what tool, people tell me I'm wrong because of the type of paint that I use. People tell me I'm wrong because my acrylics look like oil paintings, and that's wrong. Acrylics should look like acrylics. No, you're just saying that because you don't know how to freaking use acrylics. If you knew how to use acrylics, you'd be proud that they look like your oil, that the techniques were easy, you could do that. But most people don't know how to, not most people, but so many people who get involved with acrylics don't know how to blend them right. So then they try to make a rule that justifies them being bad at acrylics. And so they think that dry brushing and all of these techniques that I personally don't like, I don't think it looks good in most cases, they will demand that you do it the way they do it because they think they're always right. And I think that's kind of what everything boils down to. The people who think they're always right, the way they do it is always right. And it's there are a million different ways to get to the same end. And it's art. There's no right or wrong. I don't like dry brushing. I don't like that look, but I'm also not going to say it's wrong. It's wrong for me because I don't like it. But if somebody else likes the results they're getting with it, go for it. I'm not going to sit there telling them, going around when they post on Facebook, oh, you use that technique, it looks bad. And that's essentially what these people are doing when you use a technique they don't like. And it's really, they're very annoying people. Let's see. Letty said, I only work in colored pencil and I hate freehanding the initial outline, so I always trace. I just don't see the point in spending hours on an outline when I can trace it in 5 minutes. Exactly. And a lot of the time, for me, I do it because it saves me time. I don't need to trace. I can freehand and you will never know what I've freehanded or traced. It looks exactly the same, but one takes me a lot longer well, if I can save the time, I'm going to save the time. But there are times where, because of like the angle I want to do, I'm changing perspective. There are times I do have to freehand stuff. So it, it just depends. But there is nothing wrong with it, unless you're a crazy person. Casey said, "Pull your ears, Lisa. I'm about to use my hairdryer." Snake said, "They are too sensitive. They aren't too sensitive. They are intolerant." Yes, absolutely. Rose said that, come back. "There are no rules in art because art is inherently a deception to your eyes that there is something there when there isn't. How can there be rules on that?" Right, that's a really good way to put that. Monica said, "Thank you. Finding an app would definitely help me." Mom said, "Thank you for bringing joy to her Wednesday night. She's enjoying the live." That is awesome. Hi, my second mom. Coffee. Okay. Jason said, "If the art sells, then their opinion doesn't matter." That's also true. That's also very true. Actually, I think I can stop on the feathers. Let's get back to the eyes. That should be dry enough now. So I need, come back, liner brush. I'm just going to start with yellow. I'm not going to worry about shading. I just need to block in the yellow paint. Then that with a little bit of water just so it flows nicely. Now right now that is super fluorescent, but it won't look like this when we do the shading step later on. Now, I don't know, it's such a pet peeve of mine when artists aren't even the same size right now. When somebody discourages an artist because of their little rules they set for themselves. Like, it's just, I've seen artists give up because somebody else told them that the way they worked was wrong. And that irritates me so much. Like, anything that discourages somebody from creating something or doing something that they loved, I'm like, you are a horrible human being. It irritates me. Let's see. Jake Parker's alleged plagiarism of Alfonso Dunn's books. Okay to ask. I don't know anything about it, so I have no idea. I've never heard anything about it, so I can't help you there, or a comment even. Angel said, "Because I joined a Facebook group and submitted a perfect portrait, too perfect, I was scrutinized, I traced, and I almost cried." You know who's scrutinizing you? People who set rules for themselves and their drawings are terrible, and so they assume they're terrible just because they can't draw. And the reality, like, if you trace and your artwork came up perfect, you can draw. You can't bypass the ability to draw by tracing. It shows in the finished work. So when somebody does that and they attack you for that, they're self-conscious about the fact that they're not very good right now. And that's not to say they couldn't be good. They're probably not going to be good if they keep that attitude. But they want to justify why they're bad at what they do, and that they want to believe you cheated to get ahead. You're doing something wrong to be better than them. Too many people, God, and you see this in life in general, too many people want to believe that there's some other thing holding them back. And in this case with their art, it's that they didn't trace and you did. And they're the ones who are wrong. And it's like, God, it drives me crazy. Oh, thank you for the super chat, Alana. Come back, mouse. I moved my studio and I keep forgetting where my mouse is. She said, "Thanks for being my therapy right now, Lisa. I watch your videos all day long. Hashtag unemployment sucks, but art rocks." Oh, I'm sorry about the unemployment, but I hope the art gets going more for you. I'm glad you've got time for art, so, it's not all bad. Easy for me to say, I'm sure. Thank you again for the super chat. Oh, goosebumps. Jason said, "Also, if an artist makes rules for themselves, it doesn't mean that all rules apply to others." Exactly. I mean, you can make a rule for yourself. I have rules for myself. And you'll often hear me say, you may not, well, unless it comes to something being like fast and archival, I'm firm on if you're selling your work. But you can have a rule for yourself. It doesn't mean somebody else has to follow it. And I think, again, everything in life, you may have something where you're like, I would prefer, like my neighbor. I love my neighbor. And she has certain words she does not like. She works with teenagers, and teenagers will use harsh words to tell each other that they're stupid or whatever. And she has certain words she just doesn't like. She understands those are her own rules in her class, but not everybody is going to follow that. So, and they're not that bad of words. Well, sort of. But they're not like the big nose of words. But it's funny because you have people who, on the other hand, flip out on somebody if they don't follow their personal rules. People are silly. And the thing with rules in art, I think this is what gets me the most. When you have a rule in art, you're holding yourself back. Because there are times, and you guys hear, especially on Patreon, I think you guys hear me say this all the time when I'm doing something. I would love for there to be, to say, never do it this way or always do it that way. It would make my job easier. But it's art, and art just, that's not how art works. There are so many factors, and that's why it's hard too for me sometimes to answer your questions, because it's like there's no one right answer to there's so many factors in everything with art, so it makes it hard to say you should or shouldn't do this. So anytime I hear somebody, again, unless it's about being archival, anytime somebody tells another artist, don't use this tool, don't use this, don't use that, if you're happy with the results you're getting, it makes zero difference what somebody else thinks about how you got to that end. All I care about, and all the buyer typically cares about, is what your end result is. Most buyers give zero craps about how you got to that end. They care about having this awesome piece of art that they're drawn to on their wall. So a lot of people, I've had people, and it's only other artists. Never is it a buyer. Another artist say, well, you're deceiving the buyer. Why? Because the painting suddenly doesn't exist because you don't like the techniques I used? The buyer bought a finished product. That's all the buyer cares about. People drive me crazy. Let's see. I can rant on that one for a ridiculously long time. Crazy Bones said, so aqua blue is your favorite color. I like your art studios. Thank you. I would say a dark turquoise, dark teal is probably my favorite, but like any variation of that. So aqua would be the lighter colors of that. Yes, absolutely. Brent says, in high school, I had a teacher spend 10 minutes telling us that erasers are allowed just to turn around and give us an assignment where we couldn't use one. Now see, when it comes to teaching and let's see, are you dry enough? Yeah, you're probably good enough. I guess we'll find out. I'm going to do the shadows there, and I'm going to be using red oxide. Burnt umber would also work for my shadow here, my initial shadow. But I think it's fun to do challenges where you do challenge yourself not to use an eraser, but on a finished project where I want everything to be perfect, I'm going to use every tool available to me that I think might give me a better outcome. That is funny though. Let's see. Daniela said, what do you use to varnish your acrylic paintings? I use Liquitex high gloss varnish, the highest gloss I can get. I like gloss on my varnishes, but that is my go-to. Jason said, rules are made to be broken. How do you think the masters sell art when it's what buyers want? Yep. Susan said, Lisa, for my bokeh background for this painting, I used a Canadian maple leaf stencil instead of the circle. I am Canadian, so it's fitting. That is awesome. I want to see what that looks like. Donna said, some people seem to forget art is subjective. And then there's that too. I mean, people are, I'm going to get the upper eyelid. We've got a shadow here and on the inside. And then I'm gonna drop my brush. Then I'm gonna take a clean brush and just smudge a little bit with this. This brush has nothing on it, no water, no anything, because this is small. I don't really need to add much water. He's got a little bit up here on the corner, not as much as this one. This one's in deeper shadow. Okay, I'm gonna rinse those brushes. And it doesn't even, it's not always just about the tools you're using or the techniques. Sometimes it's a matter of, people will look at realism and say, it's not real art, or photorealism, that's not real art, you're just copying. And all you can do is, that artist is really into abstract. Now, I'm not saying there's no value in abstract. I'm saying no matter what style you do, and then you'll have the reverse. You'll have people who are only like photorealism, and they'll tell an abstract artist it's not real art, it takes no skill. There, no matter what you do, you're going to have some jerk trying to tell you what you're doing is wrong, that you should do it their way. There's something wrong with them, not you. Let's see. Yeah, we're caught up. Have a little coffee break then. Okay. So I'm going to now, let's do the center of the eye. Oh, I may need to put more black paint on. It looks like mine's drying up a little. Because this is from last week and I forgot to put a wet paper towel in there. So that happens. Yeah, and it's funny, when I was younger, I definitely didn't find as much value in like abstract. It just wasn't my thing. I mean, if someone wanted to do it, I'm not going to tell them they're wrong. It just wasn't my thing. I came down too far. Let's take a wet brush and shove that paint back into place. Use it like an eraser. There we go. But I didn't really enjoy Impressionism. I only liked really realistic and I liked fantasy. As I've gotten older and I've attempted different styles, you really develop a respect for abstract. You develop a respect for Impressionism. You develop a respect for these things when you have to do it yourself, when you try it yourself. It made a big difference. And I think a lot of times, most of the people making, ridiculous rules for themselves, I've seen it most with younger artists, but I've seen some older artists too. I had one guy back when Wet Canvas, I don't know if Wet Canvas is still a forum anyway. I don't know if people even use forums anymore. But back then, I had a painting. Now keep in mind, I've had many paintings stolen over the years, so I always put the watermark on it. What does my mom say? It keeps the honest. It lets people know, hey, you're not supposed to be taking my work. But I had the watermark on it, and he went off on me on how he can't enjoy my work because of the watermark. First, the watermark wasn't super obtrusive. Second of all, just because your work has never been stolen doesn't mean the rest of us don't have to worry about that. Like you get these people, and that was an older artist. Yeah, he was a jerk. He tended to be a jerk to people anyway. He was one of the reasons that I'm like, yeah, I don't need to waste my time on this forum. This is not a fun place to be. People were weirdly judgy and really rude, which is kind of funny because I guess I've been sitting here judging people who are rude. But his eyes not in the right place. Let's fix some stuff here. I need the shadow to come. There we go. That's what I was missing. The shadow has to, which is too dark right now. We'll lighten that up. Let's see. Yeah, that's why we're pretty heavy-handed on moderating our art group, because I really hate when somebody discourages another artist. It's really annoying. I actually remove people pretty liberally too who are just jerks in general to other artists. In that group, we really don't have much we don't tolerate it too much there. Let's see. Gail said, we've been watching a series on YouTube on the beginning of Impressionism, and I say, thank goodness they broke the rules. Life without Van Gogh and Monet would be sad. Absolutely. And there was a time I didn't really appreciate their work, and now, like, a lot of Van Gogh stuff I love. You guys know how many times I've redone the Van Gogh almond branch, or, like, based off that stuff. I love it. And that's the thing with art. I mean, every movement in art, like it or not, came from... No, I don't want an update. Every movement in art came from somebody experimenting and breaking rules. And those are the people whose art tend to be worth more are those who are breaking those rules, who are trying something different, something that sets them apart from other artists. And you get that from experimenting. Paul said, I've seen someone on these Facebook groups too, and got discouraged because his charcoal piece got rejected. Well, come back. Because it does not match the reference photo. Clients do not care with the process. Ugh. Ron said, hi Lisa, I have observed people who have zero knowledge on art give me advice on the strokes or perspective. I don't know whether they feel jealous. Any tips on how to handle such people? So this is a funny thing. I think it's just like a Facebook thing, because I'm in a lot of plant groups. I'm in groups for taking care of frogs, group for, I want to learn more. The people, the reef groups, oh my gosh, reef keeper groups. The most vocal on giving advice are the people who don't know what they're talking about. Like they're new, they have no clue. People will ask for an identification for a certain plant, and you get the ones who are so quick to answer are usually the ones who they're wrong. It's not what it is. It's amazing to me. And I mean, it makes sense too that art does it, but just in general, that's one of the things that you see a lot are these people who just on Facebook, it's like they want to share, they feel like they have to post. What? I don't know the answer. It doesn't matter. I still have to post. I have to respond. And it's like the bad advice you will get, the most vocal are those who are the least educated, always. And then when somebody comes in and tries to educate them, they're like, no, that's actually not true or whatever. Then they get mad and it's a whole thing. Like I used to be, when I had Italian Greyhounds, I used to be in a lot of Italian Greyhound groups. I left them all. every single one of them. I may be in them, but I hid them. Because anytime somebody was doing something that was dangerous to the dog and somebody would be like, hey, you shouldn't do that, then you had it was always the idiots who didn't know what they were talking about, jumping, justifying it and telling everyone else they were wrong. You're like, for whatever reason, the people who were the least educated on any subject are going to be the ones who are the most vocal. And it's very frustrating. I'm just adjusting the size of his eyes here so they match. Okay. So yeah, it's not just art. Every group, the plant groups crack me up. The plant groups, I think, crack me up the most because you're not hurting an animal by being a complete idiot. So, but some of the advice people give, and you're just going, whatever. I'm not even wasting my time on you. It can be entertaining. Let's see. Cassandra said, that's why your group is one of the few that I really engage with on Facebook. Seeing people be jerks on other artists just makes me sad and angry. Yep, same. Crazy Bone said, have you heard about Jake Parker stealing from someone else's book and putting it in his book? I don't know who any of those people are. I don't know anything about it. Sarah said, I saw a documentary that said once that the word impressions was used by a critic to insult these artists, and they took the word and owned it. That's awesome. Angel said, confidently left the group because they're confidently left the group because they're toxic anyway. It's not a place for a beginner, which was ironic because the name of the group was for beginners. Oh, man. Matt said, do you ever do digital art? I only ask because I've seen some traditional artists do some cool stuff digitally, and I think it works because they're coming from a different perspective. Yes, I actually really love digital art. I need to do another lesson. I haven't done a video on it in a while, but yeah, no, I'm a huge fan of digital painting. I have the Wacom Cintiq, the big one. That thing's a monster. But yeah, no, I really do like digital art. I just don't get a lot of chance to use it. And one of the reasons that I don't is not that many patrons have it. So if I make a video, like I can't do it too often. I should definitely do it more often than I do. But most patrons are going to be like, this week's video was not something I can do because I don't have a Wacom tablet. So I don't do it too often, but I do really like it. And with all it is another medium. You have a lot of people who are like, for some reason, talking about people who set the rules. They think that there's no value in digital painting. And it's like, yeah, because you've not tried it. It's easier because you've got an undo button, but the same concepts of understanding your values, your lights and your darks, those still apply, understanding composition. So let's add a little bit of magenta with my red oxide. I need to darken up the edge of the beak here. It's going to need some more, I think it's deep violet. I don't think it's actually magenta. I call everything that's kind of a reddish purple magenta. In my head, that's what it is. So let's get some shadows on the edge of the beak there. Oh, the paint's starting to dry and lift. I'll have to come back when that dries all the way. Let's see. I love your aqua green studio. Thank you. Heather said, 5 years ago I decided to get back into art, not just to dabble. Thanks to you, I have confidence again, even if I never post my work in the groups. That is awesome. That's so good to hear. CJ said, it's not just online. I got amazing advice in an art shop by staff, and then another customer told me what I should be doing because it's cheaper, which was wrong and not archival. Sounds about right. That's one of the things that I will delete on. So I would prefer in most groups, let people talk, but the problem is, well, the conversation will degrade and then people leave because they don't want to deal with the drama. But the problem is too, and this is one thing that I will either correct or then block and delete the person if they keep giving bad advice when it comes to archival issues in the group. Like, I do not want someone getting bad advice, like as far as it being archival in our group. So that is one thing that if someone really is doing, they're like, what was it recently? Somebody was telling people, they wanted to paint on MDF board. And they were telling people within the group that it was perfectly fine as long as you sealed it. No, it's not, because the MDF board will degrade over time. Yeah, it can be pretty, but for one, it's too heavy anyway. I wouldn't recommend that. That's not a practical surface to be painting on. But it breaks easy, it chips, there's just a lot of problems with MDF board. But they were, telling people, oh no, as long as you do this and this. Like, no, it's not true. Don't give people advice just because you're doing something doesn't mean you are right in it being archival. That your solution, even though, yeah, you sealed it, it will eventually eat the seal because it's not, I get frustrated. Let's see. Ashley said, listening to you is like listening to my inner monologue. Love it. Paul said, I'm with you on copyright though. That should be observed because people got kicked out of school for plagiarism and court trials with identity theft. Ouch. Sneak said, digital is a lot of work. It's where I started. I like digital. And the thing with digital art, it's not cheap to get started. Well, okay, not totally. You could start with like, I have my Samsung, it was the Note tablet. Now it's the Galaxy S3, I think is what I have, that I never remember to keep charged. But they have, you can get started that way fairly inexpensive, but like getting the Wacom tablet and everything, it is not cheap. And so people think that digital art like takes less, and it's like, it's more expensive to start well, like with the good stuff with digital than I think it is most mediums. Okay, so we're starting to get his little face in there. Let's get some white highlights on this eye. I'm just using straight titanium white. Now this is one of those times where I don't mix a bunch of water in with the paint because I want it to be very, very opaque. So we've got a little highlight here. This highlight's I'm gonna go over it with blue later, but it's a start. It's slightly curved. Okay, he's got a little highlight here on his nose. I'm just gonna dot that highlight. And feathers will go over some of this, so that will hide that. Okay, I'm gonna start getting some of the dark feathers in. I'll come back and put the blue highlight over the eye later. Angel said, is MeWe an app? I want to join your group. Yes, MeWe is an app. And when I use it more from the computer. There have probably been updates. I don't use it enough. And it's stupid because I actually hope it takes over Facebook. I like it better than Facebook, but we need to get more people using it. So I need to use it more. The app is kind of hit or miss on whether it does what I need it to do sometimes. So I need to check to see if there's an update on that. I pay like $3. If you want like a business page, it's, what is it, $1.99 or $2.99 a month. So I pay for that. You're like willing enough to pay for parts of it. You don't have to pay though. There are plenty of free options. And the way that MeWe makes money is potential upgrades. Like if I want a business page, it costs a fee. Or if you want certain, like I paid for, it was like $1 for the bee. Stop burping, Lisa. It's a classy show here. We don't burp. If I paid for the bee icon pack because they're bees and they're cute. So there are some good stuff there. Let's see. Rose said, any advice on painting on wooden surfaces? Sand it. No, first, ideally, make sure the wood hasn't been treated with something. And that's hard because sometimes the hardware stores have no idea. So if you like wood surfaces, they have them pre-made for artists, like a stretched canvas. Do I have any over here? I don't see any. I have some, I just never paint on them. But they're like on a cradle board. You've got a lot of options that are for art. You know that's safe. Other art that you get at like the hardware store may or may not have been treated with something, so you have to look into that. If it was treated with something, it may eventually start to eat through or cause problems on the painting or discolor the painting, cause different problems there. You want to seal it with something. You want to do a gesso. You can do a clear gesso if you want to let the wood grain show through, or a normal gesso. Either way will work, but you do need a gesso there so that the paint's not soaking into the wood. Now, using a gesso is not sealing it to make it protected if you're using a wood that was treated with something that shouldn't be treated with. That doesn't protect it from that. What it's doing is sealing it so your paint is not just soaking into the wood as you paint. So that is that one, and then varnish it as normal. Now, I've painted wood furniture where I sanded it like a table. I had an old table that I didn't like. When we got married, we had a lot of furniture given to us. So I had tables and such that I didn't really like. I sanded them down and painted seasons on them and then varnished them. And I mean, I used to use one of these tables to stand on so I could reach the top of my fish tank. It was next to a saltwater fish tank. It got salt on it all the time. Like, you couldn't hurt this table. I mean, it was perfectly fine once it was varnished. So that worked out really well. I don't know if that wood was treated with anything. I mean, I wasn't selling it, so it didn't really matter to me. But those are just things to keep in mind. Let's see. Angel said, yeah, because I feel so defeated for showing that portrait. It's a wrong community. Yeah, that stuff is just, come post in our group. You will get much better feedback from our members. Our members aren't jerks. And when we do occasionally get a random jerk in, we get rid of them quickly. Like, I don't have I know some groups don't want to be mean and they don't want to get rid of people. I'm like, nah, you're not a fit for a group. You're going to be a jerk. You're out. So we're pretty, we had problems earlier on in the group with a few members that we let stay, and we'd warn them, and you're back and forth constantly with them being ill-behaved. Nick knows exactly. Nick and Joseph will both remember who it was. Actually, one of them was so bad that when someone would post, and Nick, our moderator, kind of funny story. This is how I got to know him. he joined the group. He starts posting and his work is awesome. And we had a member who we had problems with this member. Unfortunately, she'd been in the group long enough. You had certain people who just tolerated her and kind of liked her, I guess. And so if we got rid of her, that was going to be a problem. So we just let it go. And I should have known from the beginning. She was a nonstop problem. Well, she starts sending him messages and posting on anything he posts that he's a fake person, that, I mean, weird conspiracy things. I mean, something was not, there were some problems, but she was making some really weird claims. And it's like, here's a new member who's awesome. If you've seen Nick's work, you know he's amazing. And she was saying he's not real, he's a fake person. It got weird that he was stealing that artwork. I think was one of them, that it wasn't his. It got very, very weird. We finally got rid of her, but we now, when we have someone that's acting like that from the beginning, we usually get rid of them before anyone has a chance to get attached to them, so we don't have drama later on. Yeah, we've had some weird stuff. We usually nip that in the bud pretty quickly now, which works out better. Monica said, I had someone call me an art pretender just because I never did art in school. I just started 15 years ago. They said you can't get that good over that short amount of time. Oh my gosh, the things people come up with. Lottie said, can you do an underwater dolphin whale night scene in colored pencil? I have not in a long time. I should. So I would probably do it on sanded paper with powder blender and pan pastel. I doubt that I would do that full colored pencil. Well, I could. So the reason that I'm kind of going back and forth on how I want to do that is that with colored pencil or with the whale scenes and stuff, I have to change things. I don't have them perfectly designed before I start. I add as I go. And with colored pencil, that's a bit of a challenge because once you fill something in, you are not putting another layer on. Like if I put a blue background and decide I want a yellow fish over it, I have to decide where those yellow fish are going to go in the first place. So, but if I work on sanded paper and use like powder blender or pan pastels, it gives me a lot more freedom to adjust and move stuff when I do something surreal like that. So that may be a good thing to do. I like the idea. Let's see, where are we? Jason said, Frog Legs hasn't got me kicked out. No, because funny things will guarantee you get to stay because, you know, I like sense of humor. But you're not naming my frogs, which I still don't have. Angel said, how did you learn art in the 90s though? Was it hard back then? So in the 90s, we didn't have videos. I would take like calendars of artists that I like. Christian Lassen was a big one. And I never figured out who the other artist was that heavily influenced me back then. Every once in a while I'll find out. I needed to see if I can scan and do a reverse image search. Wake up computer. No, whoa, no, my reference photo is restarting. Oh, I hate Windows 10 so bad. Give it a minute. We're going to sit and chat while I have no reference photo. I told it not to restart and it just decided to restart and do updates. And I don't know how long this is going to be because that computer is not normally online. And suddenly it decided it could connect to the internet again after like, how long have I lived here? Since November. It just decided for some reason, because I only use it for reference photos. I don't update it because I don't even go online. And now it just decided to restart and update. So I can't see a reference photo right now. Let's see, getting Windows ready. Don't turn off your computer. Oh, please don't take forever because it's been so long since it updated. I'm a little bit concerned right now. I told it not to. I freaking hate Windows 10 because it will decide it's updating for you even when you're like, no, don't update, leave it alone. Anyway, we'll chat while we do that because that is really annoying. My face is probably really red because I'm like so frustrated right now. Anyway, learning art in the 90s. So everything was trial and error. There were some videos, but they were very expensive. I couldn't afford them, like tutorial video type things. I had a few books that I got on sale. There were a few things like that. They weren't super helpful for me because I wasn't at a stage where the books made any sense to me. So what I did is just trial and error. Just what happens if I do the paint this way? There was no it almost was good because I wasn't held back by, I need to go look up the answer for this. It was just, I need to experiment and try and see what happens. So there was a lot of that. Now on the flip side, trying to make a living as an artist in the 90s, that was hard because there was no internet. I mean, some people had internet. I sure didn't back then. So until like the late 90s. I mean, 99, I want to say is when we got the internet. So hold on, let's do this later.
We've updated Windows to a brand new web browser. I don't use your web browser because Internet Explorer flipping sucks. Go away. Hold on. This is just ignoring me completely because it's determined I'm going to use Internet Explorer. I don't care. Go away. Go away. Close. Unpin from taskbar and close because Internet Explorer is one of the worst internet browsers in the history of internet browsers. I also won't use Bing. Stop. Just go. So anyway, yeah, trying to sell art back then was very hard. What I did, I drove around from gallery to gallery, got turned down again and again and again, and went and did it more. So you get really good at rejection, but there was no other option. And luckily I did have people warn me early on that was just a part of the process. So yeah, that was, go away, close, just close, just stop. Oh my God, now nope, don't, yeah, I know the webcam is turned off because I don't want to use it. It won't let me close. I'm not getting started. I don't want anything to do with you. Okay, I think I got it back. Where's my reference photo? These aren't my reference photos. Man, hold on. Let's see. And I don't know how to turn the internet off on this computer. I think that's volume. I'm going to have to figure that out later. Okay, I've got my reference photo back as long as it doesn't decide it's going to restart again. But yeah, back then it was definitely the biggest thing was trying to get to sell because you didn't have the internet. You didn't like this right now. The time period we're in right now is one of the best in history to be an artist. As far as getting sales online, you don't need a gallery. You don't need to go through the level of rejection that artists in the 90s had to, or even the early 2000s. You got it a lot better. Because the thing with art, it doesn't matter if this gallery didn't like the work. They know their buyer. Their buyer wasn't going to want it. If they thought their buyers would like my work, they would have taken it in. They know who their customer base is. But with the internet, you just opened up, like you're not limited to location. You're wherever you're located makes zero difference because you can, well, kind of a difference depending on the size. Shipping can be a challenge. But yes, it was much harder in the 90s. Let's see. Let me scroll back up. Crazy Bone said, what is your favorite TV series right now? I don't really watch TV, but I think I've got 2 more episodes left to Umbrella Academy. So that is definitely my favorite right now. But yeah, I don't even have TV. Like we have Netflix, but I don't have time to watch it. I'm more of an audiobook person. Oh, luckily this is dry enough I can do the blue highlight now. I'm definitely like audiobooks are my thing. TV, I don't have one in the studio and I don't have one in my office, and those are my 2 places I spend most of that and the outside doing yard work. So it's just not practical. Like we don't even pay for cable or anything. Well, cable internet, but because we don't, like I don't use it. It's a complete waste for both of us. So yeah, I don't really have much. Oops, that wasn't supposed to go there. My canvas moved. But yeah, Umbrella Academy, it's season 2 and it's phenomenal. Klaus is the best. Okay. And number 5. Let's see. Heather said, I wish I had not been criticized so harshly in the late 90s. I can only imagine where I would be now. See, and that's why I'm so critical or protective. I don't know if how we want to look at that word, of somebody who criticizes another artist. I don't care if that artist is absolutely terrible right now. That doesn't mean they can't be amazing tomorrow, or, well, probably not tomorrow, but a year from now, 2 years from now. So the idea of criticizing an artist, it's not like my mom has this thing in her head. She thinks, oh, it's something you're born with. And I'm like, you've seen me struggle to get to this point. You know I was not born with this. This is not something that's magical. This is something you work towards. And somebody can be absolutely terrible right now and be amazing. So anybody discouraging that artist really makes me mad. And that was, again, in the 90s, a big deal. I remember I've told this story many times, but I was a part of the Inland Empire Art Association of Inland Empire, something, it was one of those. back when I lived in California, and there was a woman, my first meeting. So I was young, and I've always looked. Oh, new patron, welcome. Hold on, load. Vanessa, if you're watching, welcome. But I was young, but I've always looked younger than my age anyway. So they probably thought I was a teenager at the time. I was in my mid to late 20s. I had bright stop sign red hair, which also made me look like a kid. So anyway, the woman made some assumptions based on how I looked. I'm sitting next to an older lady, and I had learned years before, don't judge somebody by the way they look, because I had done that before, and then that person ended up being like the most phenomenal artist I had ever seen. So I wasn't going to judge. She might be amazing. I have no idea. So we're sitting next to each other, and during the break, she strikes up a conversation, which was very nice of her because I didn't know anybody, and this is before cell phones, so you couldn't even sit there and like text or look at Facebook or whatever. And I'm sitting there, and she asks where I went to school, and I said I was self-taught. I got a freaking lecture on how self-taught artists are crap, and you can't be a good artist unless you go to school. I mean, this woman went on and on and on. So at the end of the meeting, there were some people who had brought their artwork to show. The theme was seascapes. Well, that's what I specialized in back then. I only did seascapes and marine life were my thing. That was the thing I was by far the best at. And her painting was one of them. It was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. And it's like, leave it to the person who is terrible at what she does to be the person who's going to lecture me on what I need to do to be better. So that one was funny. And it didn't really make me mad. I was just laughing because it was like, this is the person who is being judgy. So yeah, it just drives me crazy though when somebody tries to judge somebody especially before they've even seen the work in that case. But either way, you have no idea how good or bad somebody is going to end up being given. I mean, anyone who dedicates the time is going to be good. You will get there if you dedicate the time. Not everyone dedicates the right amount of time, but yeah, it really makes me mad when someone discourages another artist, that's for sure. Laura said, do you always paint realistically or do you ever paint loose? Yeah, sometimes I do loose. I've done a few kind of impressionistic styles. Some of the live streams we've done that way. So more often than not, I do realistic. But yeah, I do. Occasionally I'll do pop art. Occasionally I'll do impressionistic. It's fun to try play around with some other styles too, for sure. Joseph said, just reminding, if you have a question for me, make sure to do the Lachri fine art. If it doesn't highlight my name in orange, I will skip over you, not because I'm trying to be a jerk, but it'll look like I'm being a jerk. So I just don't see the question then. If you can't get it to work, no judgment. I can't either. Just ask one of the moderators or someone else to ask the question for you. Let's see. Casey said, my Windows 10 constantly wants me to switch to Firefox. Very persistent, always wants to update. Windows and Firefox aren't good with rejection. I want Google instead. That's funny. And also frustrating. Started Blue Studio said, I learned in the 70s. So that was going to be very similar. Like anytime before the internet, it was going to be kind of similar when it came to painting. You were definitely limited. Like back then, so when I moved to Texas, I'm thinking, well, I guess I have to paint cows now because I live in Texas. It's not like that because you're still selling online. You don't have, I went with the stereotype. Most people who live here weren't going to be super interested in my marine life, but that I can still sell to people in California. I don't have to change what I paint. And that's definitely something I absolutely love about the current time we live in. You're not limited by what's popular in your area. Okay, yeah, maybe if you're really, you want to get into galleries and such, but you don't have to do that anymore. I absolutely love that. I love the freedom that no matter where you live, you can be really into different styles. You're not limited by what's popular in your area. Oh, coffee, I need you. So now that everything's mostly walked in, we're gonna start getting some of the really dark areas in. Start working on those values. So this, it's a dark, almost charcoal gray. It's not straight black. I'll have to come back through with even darker areas too, and lighter areas in a few spots. Little speckled areas here. I'm using a new Scentsy. It was some fall smell. I don't even have it in this room, and it is strong in this room. It smells so good. It's like cinnamon and cranberry smelling. You guys care? I know. I'm just surprised that my doors are closed and I'm smelling it. It must be really strong in the other room. Let's see. So we've got a lot of dark areas right around here. I forgot to do the mention at the beginning of the video that I taught, these are art chats and we talk a lot. I'm going to get complaints. Just watch. It's probably too late because the people who would have complained wouldn't get this far in the video to hear my warning of it's an art chat. If you just want the straight tutorial, go over to Patreon, or a straight tutorial, not this straight tutorial. This one's just here on YouTube. Did anyone else decorate for fall yet? I already put all my pumpkins out in the front. Not pumpkins, but like the metal pumpkins. So yes, pumpkins, not real whatever. They're out there. I got excited. I put a few in the house too, and now I've got fall Scentsies going. I'm really excited about the cooler weather. I even got to walk Gibson in the day today, which was really nice because it's been too hot to walk in the day. He'd burn his feet. So that was nice. It was fun to look at neighbors. I like to judge people. So it was really fun to judge people's front yards and how bad they are at like the weeds. Oh my God, on some of these neighbors. It was insane. But weeds and the grass growing in their flower bed, I thought mine was bad because every once in a while will pop up. I like to hand pull them. And yeah, I'm used to walking in the dark, so I had not seen a lot of these yards that I thought were just stunning. And I'm like, wow, I wish my yard was that good. No, I do not. It was all weeds. I wasn't aware. But we got to walk in a few areas we hadn't yet, so I got to see some ideas on things that people do for their yard stuff. I'm definitely going to go crazy with sweet potato vine next year. I have some in the backyard, but man, those are pretty. That contrast with that lime green and then the dark sweet potato. Oh my gosh, so pretty. Oops, I need to refresh this because this is freezing on me. Oh, I hope this doesn't lose anything. Hold on. This might be bad. Fingers crossed. It looks like the stream is still going. It's just freezing up. Yeah, it really froze. I missed a bunch of comments. We're not loading. Okay, scrolling up. I thought that was weird that nobody was commenting after that. Here we go. And are you ADHD? I've never been diagnosed with anything because I grew up in the 80s, so that wasn't really something well, I guess Ritalin was starting to become popular back then, but no, I've never been diagnosed with anything. It's funny, I was just talking to my doctor about that yesterday because he has it, and we were laughing because we're like, yeah, I'd probably be diagnosed with that if not, or back then. Jason said, ship out the Umbrella Academy. I'm just on starting season 2. Oh, I'm not giving anything away. Don't worry, I wouldn't ruin anything. Klaus has always been awesome, so there's nothing different there. He's just my favorite. Angel said, moral of the story, choose the circle you're going to progress as an artist. Absolutely. I think that's such good advice, and it's so important. Surround yourself by people who are going to encourage you. I was very lucky. My parents have always encouraged me. I was not one who grew up being told you have to go to college. My parents didn't go to college, and if you want to go, fine. But for what I wanted to do, my parents were just like, do it, just work towards what you want. They made me get a job, and you work towards what you want. So, but they have always encouraged me. If I had an art show, my parents were right there supporting me. So I was very lucky, and I know not everybody has that with, not everyone's parents think that being an artist is a great idea. Mine just have always encouraged me with that. So I'm very, very grateful, very, very lucky. My husband, I don't know why he never gave me crap about me. I mean, we were like poverty level broke for many years. Like, you look at those tax returns, they're terrifying. For many years while I was building up my business. And my husband never gave me crap. He knew I could be helping out. I mean, he was struggling when we moved to Texas because he couldn't get back into the industry he had gone to school for. So it was a financial nightmare. And he supported knowing eventually I would get there. He never gave me crap like, you should go back to working in animal hospitals. I was so sick at the time. He knew I could, that wasn't really possible, but I was very lucky that everyone encouraged me to the level that they did. And I get it. Not everyone has that, but if you can surround yourself with friends, like if a friend was discouraging at all, I don't need you. And I know not everyone's like that. Everyone has this whole, I was friends with you once, so I have to be friends with you forever. No. If you're going to be that sort of a person, I don't need, hell, I got my own biological dad out of my life. I sure as heck don't need some rando that I've been friends with for 5 minutes that wanted to be rude about my art, like, see ya. So, Just to be clear before anyone's like, oh, your dad, that's mean. He was schizophrenic and very, very abusive. He was not safe to be around. But the point is, I'm like, I'm not the type who thinks that you should tolerate anything anyone ever says to you. If you're going to be a jerk, you can be a jerk to somebody else. Like, I have no need for that in my life. Let's see. Jason said, Lisa, you have to be 29 years old or 43. Probably 43. Let's see. Joseph said, the 80s at school, I was diagnosed with symptoms of being a child. Yep. I know, like back then, the kids just be, higher energy and all of that. That was just like normal kid stuff. So you had a few kids that were put on Ritalin or whatever was popular back then. But I think it was more the 90s that, if I'm remembering correctly, was when you started seeing more kids do that. But yeah, my brain's all over the place. My brain is usually like 8 conversations ahead of whatever's currently coming out of my mouth. My brain is very quick and it's all over. So whatever, I'm used to it. Sarah said, maybe your mom never had the inclination to paint. Maybe I could be just as good at playing the piano or dancing, but I never had the desire to do those things like I had to draw. Yeah, my mom just encouraged, like, I wanted to play violin because I had a friend as a kid who played violin, so I'm like, I want to do it too. So she encouraged me with that. She's just, anything we wanted to do, she's always been very, very supportive. She's never been the type that's like, you need to pick a sport and go play sports, because I'm bad at like coordination and I bump into walls. And they used to call me Kelly Bundy growing up because that was popular when I grew up. But my parents were like, yeah, that's not a good idea for that one. But we were never pushed to do something we weren't really interested in, other than we needed to have good grades and that sort of thing. But my mom was like seriously best mom ever. Beek said, my jazz friend considers me a cheater for tracing. Isn't jazz standard for music to improvise from a lot of tracing? And that's okay. So that cracks me up. Musicians, like classical music. I'm playing Vivaldi. I'm playing somebody else's song, but no one is criticizing me for that. They're just like, how well do you perform it? How well do you pay attention to, the crescendo? And you missed that one a little bit. Why do people judge artists in such ridiculous ways? And it's funny to me that a musician especially would. That's really funny. Mooney Run said, I'm lucky as well, as my family always supported me in being an artist. That's awesome. Sarah said, I think a lot of kids are put on medication these days for the convenience of teachers. I've known of kids who were, that's for sure. I've definitely known of some where the teacher insisted on it when the parents were like, no. So yeah, I've known of some, there are definitely some crazy stories out there with, I'm not saying no one should ever, I'm not like anti-medication. I'm not one of those. I'm just, some of the cases that I've seen, it was maybe not the best choice. I mean, my nephew, he's in California, so it's actually lucky because medicinal marijuana is very good for him. He's Asperger's. So like, I'm not saying no one should have medication. Some of them, I'm like, some of the stories of people, I've known the kid and I've known the parent, and the parent was told they had to put the kid on. I'm like, really? I wouldn't have seen that. Angel said, should I use Gamblin or Grumbacher? Gamblin is you can use Gamblin for the 2 products from them that I use are Gambar, which is my varnish for oil paints, or Gamsol, which is an odorless mineral spirit. I don't use that one that much because it's more expensive. I just use the Mona Lisa odorless mineral spirits. Performance wise, exactly the same. The one by Gamblin is supposed to be less toxic. I don't know if they have their own oil paints. I've never used them. I don't know, I haven't even looked into it. Grumbacher is awesome. I definitely know they're good. Jason said, Lisa, no, my mom is the best still. Not true. Not possible. I have the best mom. Okay. Oh, what did I miss? Well, she went from your 29 comment to my comment, so I think it might have jumped on her. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry if I missed a comment. Let's see if I can scroll up. This is not showing me all the comments. I know that for certain. Oh, wait, here we go. We have Matt said, we are setting up for a which photo shoot on the 10th. I don't even know what that is because I can't say it. I'm going to go with that's probably awesome. Oh, I missed a bunch of these. I'm sorry. Lee said, will you be posting your studio tour on YouTube? I am not on Facebook or Instagram. Yes, I'm going to do a new tour. So that was just kind of like, hey, we're getting ready for tonight. But I'm definitely going to do like an actual tour. Was there anything else I needed in the studio? Oh, lighting. I'm having track lighting put in. So that's like the last thing I really need in the studio. But yes, I will be doing that for sure. Joseph said, the drought has made all the leaves brown. Does that count? What were we talking about? Fall? Oh, fall decoration. It took me a minute. I think it counts. I think you need to put out more fall decorations now. Let's see. Am I caught up? I think we're caught up. I apologize for missing questions. Sarah said, the idea that a teacher can tell the parents, i.e. the people who should be making the decisions for the kid, that they have to put them on medication is really disturbing. Yes, it is. I definitely think that's something the parents, yes. Casey said, have you ever painted the same photo in 2 different mediums? I have. I did a portrait in colored pencil and the same one in acrylics. That was one I can think of off the top of my head. But I know that I have besides that too. And Gibson's on his back now, legs in the air. Greyhounds are so weird. I'm pretty sure they're aliens. They're not even dogs. They're not like normal dogs. Well, we know they're not like normal dogs because they don't have the same blood type. Like their blood is universal. So when, like for medical purposes, for dogs, when they need to do transfusions and stuff, they get them from greyhounds typically. So they really are aliens. They also, they do their double suspension gallop when they run. They've got some things that definitely are not normal dogs. Definite aliens. Let's see. Veek said, do I need a daylight spectrum lamp? I would say yes. I mean, people argue the word need. I say yes. It is amazing. I've got one and they're not terribly expensive. This one is way cheaper. I used to use OT lights. I don't anymore because the cheaper ones that I found on Amazon honestly were just as good. I like this better because I can adjust more than I could on my OT light. But yes, I think that is going to make a huge difference. Not only the stress of your eyes, but you're going to be able to notice, you're going to get more accurate coloration on, it's easier to choose your colors. I had a student once. I love this lady, nicest lady in the world. She had brought a painting in she'd been working on at home. It should have been all greens and it was like a forest scene. And she had painted it all in purple and didn't know why the color came out wrong. And I had to ask her questions. So I'm looking at that going, that is not even close. It was the bulbs she had at home. And it didn't even cross her mind that the bulbs were casting a different hue. And so her reference photo wasn't really what she thought it was. Like, yeah, the light spectrum will make a difference. If you have not already, if you could hit that like button, I'll love you forever. They say, well, it depends on who you ask, but they say that it'll help my video to be found by more people. So, if you're enjoying listening to me ramble and paint an owl, hit the like button. I still have to find a weird, here's a hat I'll put on if we get a certain number of likes. I haven't found anything. I wanted to go with something that's somewhat embarrassing, except I don't get, truly embarrassed easily. So I'm having a hard time thinking of something. Moody Rowan said, kids in my class in the 80s always blamed their high energy on eating chocolate at lunch. At least that's what they told their teachers. Yeah, and that's funny. Back, we used to have that too, where we couldn't have certain candies, which is funny because we couldn't have a candy bar, but we could have a cookie that had just as much sugar as that. It was really, the rules when they start doing those aren't really helpful. Let's see. So to the person trying to spam to support your art, you're going to get blocked. Do not do that in other people's live streams. It's a dick move. Let's see. Minnell said, what black paper do you recommend? I really like the Canson Me10s. That's probably my favorite. I do not recommend Black by Fabriano Artistico. It's probably the worst I've worked on. But Canson Me10s, they have their normal black, but they've also got the black, it's almost like cardstock. It's the bigger, thicker pieces. That is really nice to work on too. Heather said, my son and I have Asperger's. We both also have ADD. No meds for me, but he absolutely needs his. See, and that's why I'm glad when they're available, when somebody needs them, for sure. Yeah, that's my nephew. The difference for him with, he had a hard time. He was probably, I want to say he was like 6 before they realized why he was having meltdowns to the extent he was. He really struggled. Thank God. My sister and her ex-husband, but they've got a weird, good ex relationship. Like, they're still a family. It's actually pretty amazing. But you couldn't have asked for better parents for this kid. So I'm so grateful. They've been wonderful. They can be keeping everything consistent for him and all of that. But it was like I don't know if it was a CBD drops. It was one of those, but that really, really helped him. And he's been doing great. I mean, they've got him playing football and sports and all of these things. I mean, it's impressive. And I know it's the parents. I know good parenting, having supportive parenting. Parents that had the ability to support him so much in this, like, night and day difference once he was diagnosed and they knew how to help him. So yeah, like, he's a good example where I'm not one who's like never put the kid on medication. So I always feel like I need to clarify that, because people assume you're either all for something or all against something, and I'm like, no, there are cases where it's super helpful. Casey said, "Oops, Lisa, you righteously slipped and cursed." See, that's not a curse, I don't think. Right? It's a body part. It's not a curse. Let's see. I think we're good. I don't. Is it a curse? Do some people consider that a curse? I mean, it wasn't an incorrect way to describe that. Yeah, that's true. What Joseph is saying, YouTube doesn't really care if it's a like or a dislike. They're all good for my channel, because what it does is it shows that people are interacting. So yeah, it's all helpful. Okay. Yeah, and it's funny. It kind of brings up an interesting thing. One of the things that we as artists are trying to do is to promote our work. There are ways that you can do it that are super successful, and there are ways that you can do it that just makes you look like a tool. Going to somebody else's channel, going to somebody else and trying to promote yourself, like on my channel or another artist channel, or they'll do it on Instagram, they'll do it on that, follow me on this, follow me on that. It doesn't work. It doesn't gain you followers. It's an ineffective method, and it just makes people block you. I have blocked so many people that I might have followed on my own if I saw their work, but because you want to spam, and that's what that comes across as, it's just not an effective way to promote yourself. So if you're trying to promote your art, some of the better ways you could do is just be consistent. Use Instagram, use the Instagram tags, be consistent in your posting and use proper tags. That's going to get you far more followers. You post in here, no one likes you. You just made a bunch of people annoyed because you're spamming in chat. I mean, our moderators get rid of it quickly, so most people aren't even seeing it. But it's not an effective way to gain a following. And I get it, as artists, it's hard. We've got to work to get that following. But you've got to work trying to get it off somebody else's following. It doesn't work. It's not effective. Let's see. Moody Roan said, I know someone mentioned you painting a moose and you were looking for references. They have some nice references on Paint My Photo. So I don't use Paint My Photo anymore because they changed their rules, and one of the rules was that you had to get if you were going to make a video of the artwork. You know how to get permission. This was a few years ago. I don't know if they changed it back. But they wanted you to get permission from the photographer if you were going to make a video out of the artwork. And I'm like, I don't have time for that crap. I don't have time to wait to get permission. Either I'm allowed to use it or I'm not. They also had a rule where you were not allowed to make digital paintings of the photos on there. Okay, why does the medium I'm working in make any, why would that matter? So I don't use Paint My Photo at all anymore. I mean, it was a great thing, I guess, at the time before Pixabay and such, but there's too many rules for what I have time for. I don't have time to wait and see if the photographer responds and encourages me. I need to use more oranges. This is too yellow. So yeah, I'm not a Paint My Photo person anymore, unfortunately, because I used to really like them, but it's just not practical for me to jump through all of these little hoops. And I know people will be like, well, that's not that many hoops. It is when you don't have time for them. So I just need to be able to find the photo, use the photo, know it's good, not like, I'll find this photo and I have to wait and find out if it's okay if I use this photo because I'm making video. No. Let's see. Muyeron said, it's not a curse. I say it all the time. Well, I say a lot of things all the time that are curses. So for me, that would not be an indication over whether or not it's a safe word or not to say. Oops. Oh, I like this color though. So we've got that red oxide. I'm getting a little bit of a glow. And if it's too much, I can glaze another color over it. And I'm going over some of my white. We'll come back over that too later. So I've just got the highlight there. I need it a bit brighter though. Let's use some unbleached titanium white. Okay, I'm making a muddy mess. I'm gonna just wipe this off. So I'm gonna show you how to, if you get to a point where you're like, this is, okay, I overdid this. Take white or water and a clean brush, and it works like an eraser, as long as the paint is still wet. If the paint starts to dry, it's not gonna work so well. But I don't like the results I'm getting, so let's just remove some of that. And building that up a bit too thick. Okay. I think I do need it to be lighter, but that was a bit too opaque. Moody Ron said, "Ooh, sorry, those rules are dumb. I guess I will have to reread them." Which, oh yeah, they released them years ago. See, for some reason I apologize. I'm missing the chat is not showing me all of them. I refreshed it and now I've got more here. Yeah. Yeah, the rules are I don't know. I mean, and I get why they're doing it, but you had too many people. And then you had, like, that one was kind of funny too. I remember there was a member who was freaking out because Paint My Photo was posting some of the photos on Facebook. Like, oh, look, these are photos you can get from our website. You know, this is cool. And you had certain members who were freaking out because they felt if their artwork was posted to Facebook, it was going to get stolen. Not their artwork, the photographs. But wasn't the point for people to paint from the photo? Like, they could be stolen anywhere. Like, it was very, I think the problem came down to too many people were using Paint My Photo that were not very tech savvy, and they didn't understand how things worked. And so because they didn't understand it, they were like, no, can't do it. It's the devil. Like my mom with computers when we were younger, where she thought bringing a computer into the home was inviting Satan into the home or something. I forget what it was, but she was very like non-computer at the time because she didn't understand them. Not the case, which is hilarious because she uses computers all the time now. But yeah, back then, I'm never going to let her live that down. I think that was the problem with some of the Paint My Photo people, is that they didn't, some of the people who were like complaining about different things just didn't understand. I mean, like digital art. I think that the problem was that people misunderstood what digital painting was, and they thought it was digital manipulation. Not that you're actually painting. They didn't get it. And so that's what I suspect. I don't know. I didn't talk to anybody about it or anything. But yeah, it was just not for me anymore. Like it definitely moved to a place where it didn't make sense for me to use them. I would rather go, like if I need a good photo, I would rather go over to Wildlife Reference Photos, pay what? $10 and I get 5 photos of my choice. Like that's usually, like if I can't find a good photo, that's my go-to. And then I can do whatever I want with that photo. Let's see. Certain Artist Collective said, you have commercial success now. What kinds of activities do you do for ongoing professional development? Courses, art museums? I don't do anything, honestly. I don't leave my house for the most part. I go out for a few errands and then come home to my little happy space. Would those things be good? Yeah, probably. But right now, especially with COVID and all that, like the only gallery in my area that I was interested in closed. I forget what it is now. It's not an art gallery. So it's, I don't have much for you. You know, and then the funny thing is, by the time I got to the point where I was doing well, as far as, you know, getting recognition, having sponsors, doing all of that, I didn't have time anymore to hit up galleries. And I still would like to get my work into some galleries, but I didn't have time anymore to pursue that. So I just haven't. And I can't really give much advice on what, or, you know, tell what would be different now versus back then. I have no idea because I've not put any effort into it. I mean, I had one gallery I was interested in and then that one closed before I could even get into it. I was putting my stuff, this is a little too dark. Let's mix that with some red oxide. I was displaying my work at the Frisco, what is it? The City Hall. But with COVID and all of this again, I've just not I've not done anything, in a very long time. And I would like to, I just haven't. And time is always an issue. I mean, you only have so many hours in the day. And so if I do one thing, I have to give up something else. And it makes it very hard when everything I like is already full. Let's see. Have I ever tried the website Unsplash for photos? Yes, I actually do use them on occasion. I like them. they've got some good stuff. Casey said, I've reached a point in my painting where I'm just making it worse because I don't have a vision of how I want it to look. Should I just step back and try again tomorrow? Absolutely. If things are going bad, that is a pretty good sign of take a break. Absolutely. Starglow Studio said, I used to paint digital pet portraits. I quit because of the stigma. But that's been 10 years ago. Things are better now. Yeah. And I've actually sold digital pet portraits. What I did with those is I sent the person the file and allowed them to make prints as they wanted. So I didn't charge that much, but it would maybe like $125 for a portrait. And I would give them permission for their own, not to sell or make make prints to sell. But you want to print this on a coffee cup, on a pillow, on whatever, here's some websites, here's the photo, have a blast. So that's what I did with that. That worked pretty well. I just haven't done it in a long time. Okay, let's see. You know I'm going to outline some of this with aqua, so let's go ahead and do that. Although some of this I'm still planning on using the gold. I've got too much water on there. The gold pen. I'm going to border some of this along the outer edge. I've still got too much water on that. Let's go right down. So this is going to be the shadowed area. So that's where I'll really pull that aqua more. And I'll end up pulling that onto the branch too. And then probably gold on the highlighted area. Okay, so we're gonna start getting some of these feathers. I'm gonna switch to my liner brush and we're gonna start getting these feathers. I think I'm gonna try, let's see how this one works out. I don't know if I've even used this brush. This is that Simply Simmons liner. And we'll pull a few of these feathers over the beak. Oh, that's a nice brush. These ones will be a bit too light. I'll have to glaze over that later. See, same thing here. I'll have to glaze over this. This will be too light, but we'll get around the eye. And that one's in shadow. We've got a few little guys up here. And now I've also got to come through and add a bunch of the speckles back in that we lost. Nick said, funny that your fingernails and the paint you're using are the same exact color. Yeah, I have to do them. They're all chipped. I try to do them before a live stream so they're not all tacky looking and chipped, but that didn't happen today. I decided to take an extra long nap instead. Worth it. What was I doing? Okay, the speckles. Let's get some of these speckles back in. I'm just going where they already were. It's just that I kind of covered them when I went over with the darks. Watch where they change directions. We've got thicker, more bold ones on this side where the light is really hitting. Oh, it's the dog mic. It sounds like there's a bird at the window, but it's night. That would be weird. Yeah, it's the dog. Thanks, Fiddle Jewel. Sarah said, I'm just curious, do you follow any YouTubers who are authors or know any? I know Aliona, who wrote the Colored Pencil Bible and Colored Pencil Portraits, but no. I follow, like the authors that I follow, I'm in some of their art or their groups in Facebook, but I don't know of any that are YouTuber artists, YouTuber authors. Casey said, is this a crazy idea? I made my reference photo black and white, but still used colors in the painting. This way I forced myself only to see the value of the color, not the color. That's a cool way to go, but if it were me and I was doing it in black and white, I would paint it in black and white and then I would glaze color over. That would be easier, like an easier way for me, I think. Debbie said, yes, naps are awesome. I take them most days, but today was like, I had a hard time waking up. I napped a bit too long. I was weirdly tired for some reason today. Lottie said, I'm drawing a tarantula against a black background. What would be a good technique to get the light hairs against the black background? I'm working in colored pencil on watercolor paper. I would probably leave the light paper as much as possible and come back through with the darks in between. So you're kind of working on the reverse there, putting the dark bits there, but leave the white as much as possible. The other thing you can do for the lighter hairs over dark, touch up texture and titanium white mixture. It's a product I use a lot for colored pencil. I think it's on a video showing you how I get fine lines with colored pencil. That is amazing for coming back through with highlights. For me, that's what I would do because I use that product all the time, but those would be probably the way to go to get the light hairs. I wouldn't do the dark, let's see, against the black background. I would leave the white of the paper where I wanted the white hairs if I didn't have that product. Wow, you guys are on top of the spam quick. That's funny watching both of you hit it fast. And if the person who's spamming is watching, I was just talking about this, that's ineffective. First, your spam is not coming through. We're going to block that, and you now are blocked from my channel from commenting. People aren't going to follow you because you spammed your channel on somebody else's content. It makes you look bad. And it's not that I don't want you to succeed. It's that it's not effective. It's spammy. It doesn't work. We don't want it in the chat because then the actual conversations can't happen. And it is not going to get you followers. You are wasting time. If you want to get followers, head over to Instagram, head over to YouTube, make content. Make the content that people will eventually search for and find. Going to somebody else's channel and telling them to randomly follow you will not work. It is not effective. It annoys people. I block, if I'm watching someone else's stream and someone starts spamming and they don't have moderators to take care of it, I block the person. I'm not gonna go look at your stuff. You're a spammer. It doesn't get you followers. If you want followers, you need to make good content and you need to do it consistently. You're not gonna try to go to somebody else's. What the time you're doing right now is wasting your time. I mean, it gives our moderators something to do because I think it's fun to ban people, but it's also not going to get you any followers. It is an absolute waste of your time. Go make good content if you're trying to get followers. And if you're thinking, well, I made the content, but no one's watching it. Yeah, welcome to being a YouTuber. We all go through that. You have to continuously make more content to gain the followers. It doesn't just happen because you made 2 videos. Make a bunch of videos and people will find you without you having to turn into an annoying spammer. Veek said, do you know much about Canson Me10's black pastel paper? What is it good for? It is too textured for me. Use the other side. Well, it depends on what side you're using. Use the smooth side is what I use for colored pencil, and I love it. That's my go-to. That's the one that I'm usually using for, I think always using actually, when we do the black paper, the live streams, that's the one I use. But I'm using the smooth side. The rough side, I think pastels, but for colored pencil, use the smooth side. Yeah, like what Joseph said. When I see that in regular comments, I grill them. What is your channel about? What do you do? Why should I watch? It's so little. Yeah, it's funny how people just think, well, I'm just going to go spam on somebody else's channel and that's going to get me followers. No, it annoys people. Although, so funny story. That's how I met Jason Morgan. Back years ago, back like what, 2012? That is how, no, I'd already been following him. And back then, people were giving bad marketing advice. And one of the things that my studio network told me to do, they actually said, go to another, let's say it was a tiger painting and somebody else did a tiger painting and they've got a lot of views. Go link your content in the comments. And that was a tip and it was ineffective. So I did it to Jason and Jason did it back to me. And that's kind of how we started talking, which is so funny. But it wasn't effective. It didn't make either one of us grow. It was just kind of a funny thing that's how we met. But back in like 2012, that's what they used to tell YouTubers to do. And it was the worst marketing advice. Like it did not work. It just made you look like an annoying spammer. Monica said, Ma said good night. I'm still here though. Good night, my second mom. You go lay down, Gibson. Lay down. He knows it's about walk time. I think he's going to get that second walk today because I really do want snacks. And I have to go walk to earn the snacks. My back would like it though. My back is a little bit irritated with me. This guy too, he's going to look so good with a gloss varnish. Right now he's kind of dull. Once you put that gloss varnish on, it makes the paint look wet again. It will look so good. This is the area I'm going to probably pull gold on, so it doesn't need to be super clean. Oh, we needed the shadows on the side of the beak. It wasn't dry last time. Gypsy Heart said, working on first oil piece and doing grisaille. I say grisaille. I know I'm saying it wrong. Is it normal for it to take 3 layers in black, white, and brown to get the values correct before I glaze the color? Yes. I usually will spend at least 3 days, so 3 layers total, in order to build up to what I want. Yeah, the video I just posted on Patreon, that was 3 days worth. Actually, I think I only shared 2 days worth because my 3rd day on this one was just tiny details that you couldn't see what I was doing. I was just like, adjust the lip a little, like tiny adjustments. But normally, yeah, 3 days is typically what I do, at least, normally. Sarah said, I think I've gotten followers who have found me from my comments on other people's videos, but I didn't link my channel. I posted something that was relevant to the video. Yes, now that is good. That's actually very, very good advice. This is another marketing thing people will often tell people. Post comments regularly, like go to, like in my case, I could go to one of Lena Dania's videos. We know I love her content. I could go and make a comment there, and somebody may see Lachri Fine Art as being my username and just be curious about what yes, that is absolutely a really good way. I'm so glad you brought that up because I always forget that one. That's a really good way, is just have good comments on videos. That will drive people just out of curiosity, like, who's this person who said this really cool, had this really cool input. That's excellent way to get followers through YouTube like that. Mooney Roan said, did you ever do a video of charcoal pastel colored pencil on toned paper? I've done the charcoal. I think the charcoal I did was on white though. Pastel or colored pencil. Yeah, colored pencil. I love toned paper on colored pencil. If I want my colors to be really pure and true to what the pencil is, I'm going to go on white paper. But if I just want the background, let's say I want a light blue background, I'm going to let that color pen. My brain is done for the night. I'm going to let the paper show through. Then, yeah, I really like my favorite colors are usually gray, which I recently got more of, so I need to make some videos with that one. Blues, I like tans, and I let that background, that color, be a part of my background. In that case, I do really like the toned paper. Daniela said, do you use a specific brush when you use the gloss varnish? I've always used the spray varnish, thinking about switching. How do you avoid streaks? I don't mind streaks when it comes to varnish. I think it looks cool because you can see the brush stroke. I'm not opposed to it. But you can also use a sponge brush. Do I have any over here? I don't think I do. Wait, no. I do not. You can use a sponge brush. It's just a little black or like charcoal gray sponge on a handle. You can use that, and that can sometimes avoid those streaks. But usually, at least in my case, it seems to kind of level itself out, so there's not a lot of streaks. But I'm going to do at least 2 to 3 coats of a varnish. So if the first coat did have streaks that were a little bit heavy, it's going to get blended out. You're really not going to see much on future layers anyway. And yes, you can varnish acrylics with Gamvar. I don't, unless it's an oil over acrylic where, I need something that it's going to be compatible with the oil. Normally, I use my Liquitex gloss varnish for my acrylics. But you absolutely can use the Gamvar for your acrylics. Renee said, color suggestion to paint acrylic Luna moth to make, mouse is in the way, I thought it said tuna, an acrylic tuna, huh? A Luna moth to make it look glowing green. Thank you for teaching us. Color suggestions. I actually have a couple over here. The yellowy green, there's one I love. I don't think it's over here. But it's like it's almost more yellow than green. I don't have the name of it because it's not here. But pull more, or if you're using a green, add some yellow to it. But getting that yellowy tone will give you that glowy green. More yellow than green. Jason said, it's better than having your brain go out at the beginning. This is true. And lately, I have had a lot of that where my brain went out at the beginning. I had a nap today, so it was easier to function. Okay, what do we have? We've got 6 minutes. Oh, let's do the shading on the beak. So I need to let's use some of that violet. A little bit of red oxide, tiny bit of black. Not much on the black. And we need to get that shadow in there, just on those edges. I will have to do another layer. This is not dark enough, but we'll build it slowly. let's see. Morgan said, do you have to varnish an acrylic painting? I would strongly recommend it. Definitely. Do you have to? I guess no, but it protects it. It's definitely a good idea to do. And for me, I like the gloss look anyway. And because I work with Liquitex Basics, they have a very matte finish. So by putting a gloss varnish, it makes the paint look wet again. It adds so much more depth. It looks amazing. So I would strongly recommend it. Let's see. What do I want to do anything else on this guy tonight? We got the majority of his head done though, which I didn't know if we'd get this far. So that's pretty good. So next week we'll be able to do his body, and that isn't as tiny like of detail. So hopefully we'll get I'm hoping to get far pretty quick tomorrow, or not tomorrow, next Wednesday. So that'll be good. While we're sitting here, I can just kind of fuss over some of the branch. Let's get a little bit more detailing in there because I did want more, just little sketchy lines. Just while I'm killing time, because really, I mean, at this point, I'm going to be moving on to the body, and it's like we're already done pretty much for tonight, so I don't want to start into that. Let's see. Monica said, "Is it weird if I can't paint or draw without a concept first?" I think it would be weird if you did paint or draw without a concept first. Casey said, "I just realized that in the description you put art chat, which doesn't cover all of the nonsense. Mine included off-topic chat." And you're correct. And I've thought about just putting chat, but art chat makes more sense. But no, you are correct. Let's see. Now I kind of understand people wanting less chatting. Yeah, but yeah, whatever. Leah said, just got an order of Liquitex Basics today. Sounds like I got one. It's brilliant yellow green. That's probably the one I'm thinking of. I don't have, it's back there. Luckily, tomorrow my wireless mic comes, and I have, well, only the mic. I won't have the lavalier. It will work without it. We'll see how it sounds. I'll have to do some testing. But the nice thing for that will be if I want to keep talking and leave, walk across the room, you guys will still hear me. So I'm really excited about that adjustment. It may take some trial and error to get that working well, but yeah, I'm really excited for that. What else do I want to do on this? Yeah, we're really at that stage where I'm like, this is good for tonight. I do have some more stuff. Maybe a little bit more of the lighter colors here. Let's see. If you are trying to get tons of really accurate tiny detail, yes, you can use smaller brushes. You can get a lot of detail smaller, but the average viewer, it's not. It's easier to work larger. You can get a lot of little details a lot easier. I mean, like the painting. I don't know if you can see, my head's in the way, but the painting behind me over here, that's an 18 by 24 inch, and it's a close up of her face, but I can get so much tiny detail in her hair because I'm working so large. So in this case, I mean, I'm not putting in every little detail because it's little. Like the average viewer is not going to be this close to it where they're going to see that level of detail. So what I'm focusing on typically when I work on something that is a bit smaller, yes, I want detail, but there does get to a point where I don't think that detail is beneficial in making it look realistic, especially here because it's small. The average viewer is going to be a ways away. So I'm going to focus more on my lights and my darks and my values. But if you do like that tiny, you want every little detail, work a little bit larger. It's more time consuming. So for some people that alone is going to be kind of discouraging because you don't get that instant result or, very quick result, but it is a lot easier to get tiny, tiny detail if you do work on a larger surface. Okay, we are 9:59. I think we're about done there. Oh, Daniela said, going to try switching to the varnish. Fingers crossed. One more. What is the difference between heavy body and soft body Liquitex? I've always used heavy body. Curious how they're different. I don't like either that much. My main issue with both, two issues actually I have with both. They dry already gloss. I don't want it to be gloss. It is very hard to photograph something that's high gloss, so that's a negative for me. I like that Liquitex Basics dry more matte. The other thing is, like the tracing and transfer paper that I use or a white charcoal pencil, if I'm freehanding stuff in, it doesn't show up. It's hard to show up if the paint is too glossy. So that's a negative for me. And both heavy body and soft body are going to do that. The other thing is that they dry faster, like weirdly faster than the Liquitex Basics. And I don't know why that is, but they do. They dry faster on the palette and they dry faster on the canvas. So sometimes it can be harder to blend. I just don't like them. They are both good paints, but they don't work well for my technique. So I'm not a huge fan that way. But as far as besides that, the difference between the two, the heavy body is a very, very thick paint. So let's say you're going to paint with a palette knife and you want those thick, chunky, like you really see those heavier brush strokes and it's more textured, you want to go with a heavy body. For the soft body is going to be closer to the consistency of the Liquitex Basics. They're already soft, it's a softer, more suitable to this style of painting than the heavy body. Can you use one for the, they be interchangeable? Yes, you could use one for the other or the other for one, but they're not, that's kind of the main thing. The soft body are a softer paint, so they're going to flow better, they're going to blend better than the heavy body is better when they're chunky. Now you can thin out the heavy body to make them thinner, but with how fast it dries and all that, it's just not really practical. Neither work well for my techniques. I have both, and I still go for my Liquitex Basics because I'll have people judge me saying how I'm using, why do you use such cheap paint and blah, blah, blah. I use archival coat, they're light fast. So what difference does it make? They work well for my techniques, and I do a lot of glazing. So these being a little bit less pigmented, they're more translucent. That's a good thing for me. Can you make the other ones more translucent? Yeah, and you can mix mixing medium and with them. You can mix water, but these ones already do what I pretty much want them to. So that's kind of the difference between the three. And I know you only asked about soft and heavy body, but we'll throw in basics too, just because those are kind of, Liquitex's big three. So that is the difference there. Jason said, new toy to work with. Also, turn off the Wi-Fi for the computer that has your reference photo so nothing happens when you start live streaming. Yes, I need to do that. I need to figure out where that Wi-Fi button is. It's weird that it just randomly was like, oh, I connect to the internet again, because it's never connected to the internet since I moved here. So I'm not even, I don't know. Because I tried to get it hooked up to the internet when I moved here. So I guess I would have put in the password then, but it wouldn't. And I was like, I don't want to deal with you right now. And suddenly it's like, I'm going to do it. 9 months later. Let's see. Susan said, oops, I'm late. Sorry about that. I'm not getting any email notifications about videos. Have you heard this happening to anyone else? Yes. YouTube decided no one needs email notifications anymore. So they got rid of that. So if you want an email, so make sure you're signed up to my newsletter because I'll let you know what videos go up and what time. I mean, it's always Wednesday. It's always Wednesday at 8 p.m. and Central Time and Friday at 1 p.m. Central Time. But yeah, that's a thing that YouTube decided nobody needs. They said that the percentage, like the open rate was really, really low. Not that many people open the videos. What they didn't factor in, because YouTube is, like so many are a genius at not looking at the big picture, is I don't have to open the email. If I get a notification that someone's live, I just go to their channel. Like I don't have to open the email to do that. So I don't think YouTube factored that in, but yeah, they will not send notifications for live streaming like that anymore. You just have to know what time it is, and my email newsletter always has that information for you. And then of course I post on social media. It's annoying. Daniela said, thank you so much for your advice. You're welcome. Thanks for joining tonight. Gypsy Heart said, at least 3 layers. Gotcha. I'm doing a great medium comparison where I finally take all of the supplies I've hoarded over the years and painting the same photo over and over to compare them. That will be cool. That's going to be cool to see. Casey said, if we wanted to send you a letter or something along the lines of that, could we send it to the P.O. box on the postcard you sent us? Yes, you can, but make sure you let me know. I almost never go to my P.O. box, like twice a year. I need to transfer it. I will eventually be moving it to the city I currently live in. It is really far away, so we don't go often. Unless I know something's coming, I don't check it. So yeah, just let me know if you do. Let's see. Richard said, I think Windows 10 owes us 5 more minutes. Yeah, friggin' Windows 10. I wasn't expecting that. Like it popped up, we need to restart. And I chose do it later. Well, apparently it decided later was like 15 minutes later. It warned me, it just started doing it. Thanks. Let's see. Leisha said, the Wi-Fi button is actually the Wi-Fi symbol on the bottom right of your taskbar. Click that and you can disconnect the internet. Is it? I know on this laptop it has a thing that slides. I just don't remember which side it's on. Does this one have it too? Let's see. Open network. Okay, disconnect. So it's disconnected that way. That's helpful. I don't know. I know that laptop has like a little switch that you can turn it off and on too. Thank you. Okay, 10:04, we're done. I need to go walk my dog so I can have a snack. Or later. This calorie counting thing is really working well to get me moving. Well, that and Gibson's gonna want to walk. Anyway, no one cares. It's random. I will see you guys on Friday at 1 p.m. We're going, what is Friday? It's the 4th. We're doing watercolor pencil, a sunflower watercolor pencil. So Friday, 1 p.m., sunflower watercolor pencil. I will see you then. I'm going to try to get an edited video out this week as well. We'll see how that goes. And there we go. I will see you guys Friday. Bye.